glad you guys both brought this up, because when I was thinking about the informant thing a few minutes ago, that is something that I see happen, but it's a better case scenario than what we see happen most often, which is the putting someone on a stand instead.
Yeah.
And like making them prove it. Like that, unfortunately, tragically, is more common.
Yeah.
Yes.
As they're having to immediately prove it. Like, okay, here's the evidence of it, and the ridiculousness of how scripture is manipulated, because this is like the idea of having 2 or 3 witnesses. And it's like, who has 2 or 3 witnesses to sexual abuse? Like, how idiotic would the perpetrator have to be to well, they'd have to be as idiotic as Warren Jeffs, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's how dumb they'd have to be, right?
Yes.
And so, I mean, he even recorded it, because it's horrifying and heartbreaking. It's devastating, what he did to young women. And so when we're looking at the 2 to 3 witnesses, we're looking at earmarks of trauma. We're looking at these things that we're talking about, and we're seeing, wow, like you can tell this person has been affected. And whatever the specifics are, this person needs support. And that is where my head goes with anyone who comes to us at beEmboldened, is this person is in need of support. Whatever has happened, whatever the specifics are, I can jump in and start supporting them without knowing all of the details. And that's an encouragement I have for people, is you don't have to know all the details. As a loved one, you can come forward and support without asking for all the details. Just jump in where they're at and pick up where they're at, and be really humble and upfront of, I don't know exactly what I'm doing, so give me some feedback, please, as we go, if you would like to do so. But I'm just kind of jumping in. And that is something that I actually can sort of remember me transitioning as I've been aging along the way. I'm like, I remember in my 20s, it'd be like, oh my goodness, what happened? And you'd want to like seek to understand in order to then help. And there's some reality to that. Like, I'm not trying to say that we don't have to understand anything, but if I see someone's been harmed, I can just more of like, okay, what do you need? If you're able to identify that, and if not, here's some suggestions. Does this sound good? Or I'm just going to jump in and do this. Let me know if it's unwanted though. Like, please feel free to tell me, because this is an idea I have. So it's not all on them to have to communicate what they're needing. And I don't have to know what they don't care to tell me at that time.
That's right.
Because it can be an additional trauma to be telling everyone what happened in order to get a need met.
Yep.
That is quite a burden that we're putting on the survivor. I also wanted to give a nod to when I first shared my story, because when I first shared it publicly in 2020, when beEmboldened came to be, it was under a different name at the time, but that was the first time that I had shared my story. Like, that was not like, oh, I've been doing this for a decade and now I'm just going to make a video about it. So there were people that I reached out to. I had to tell friends from 10 years. One was, I knew her as a baby and she always knew something was weird, but she had no idea like the depth and breadth of things. And so when I came forward and I was like, I'm going to do this video, I very much experienced what you talked about. I was dissociative again. Terror. Terror would be the accurate word for what I was experiencing. And I knew it was going to be open for anyone to say anything. And that was so scary and incredibly threatening. It felt threatening. There was no actual face of anyone. It was just the world was threatening as I was going to share this. Like, how are people going to respond? And had there not been some good, proper support in place for me before I went and did that, I would look back and say, Naomi, you shouldn't have. But I did have the support in place. Fortunately, I was a professional already and I knew some things of like, I should have some things before I do this. And when we think about people who are coming forward now or who have come forward in the past or will in the future, what are some of those things that are really good for them to have in place if they can? Now, again, I want to say for those who are considering this, you're like, well, this is me. I've been targeted. We're not saying like, make sure you check off this list before you do what you need to do. It's more of considerations for being kind to you, being patient and loving towards yourself as you're doing something that is incredibly difficult. What are some things that people can have in place?
Well, one of the things that I'm thinking of is I've had several people recently say, well, with all the stuff that's coming out, should I share my story then? And I always go back to, okay, let's let's hold on a second and think through like maybe some ramifications of sharing that story. Like I think you have to, you're not going to be able to predict the future. Like there's not, future predicting happening here, but in essence saying, like you said, what kind of support do you have around you? Do you know what happened to you? Before you ever go down this road of telling the story, do you know what happened to you? Are you aware of the potential, for lack of a better word right now, backlash that you could get from not just, people who knew you that didn't know your story, but from the organization or the people who are involved? Are you prepared for that? And by prepared, that could be a lot of different things. That could be identifying just your support people and what you believe might be happening. That could be also legally prepared. So, there's lots of different ramifications.
I have a ton of ideas kind of flood my mind. One of the ones that I've noticed works well for like some of my crew that has gone through this is that they chose, luckily it was in a therapeutic type environment where they first shared their story and where they got to identify some of the things, like put some language to what their experience was so that they can be understood. Because when you do go through a deeply traumatic experience, like take a sexual abuse situation, sometimes you don't even really know how to describe what happened. And the folks who have unfortunately been through a sexually violent type of interaction, you dissociate and you black out, and there are lots of things. And so just the rehearsal of telling your story with someone you feel safe with can be really life-bringing to that moment, as hard as it is. And then asking that person if they're willing to be with you while you go and do the big thing, go and have the actual meeting. I will regularly go with clients if they're to that point and they're like, I need to have an intervention of some sort in this church. One of the options, if I was the person that they initially shared with, I will offer and say, would you feel safer if I were just in the room with you? And that has been something that has been very, very helpful. Or like the best friend who you initially told, that sort of thing. I think that can be really helpful, that you don't have to do this alone. You can have a team with you that is just there as that reminder and that initial environment that your brain was in when you first were able to tell your story, and that your brain, your nervous system can see my support system is like right here with me.
Yeah, like physically right there.
It's right here. Like that is an option.
Yes.
Like you can have a team. You do not have to be by yourself.
Yes, and I would not recommend being alone. I think there's several reasons to have someone there. It's also when we share, it's just, we're going to be flooded. And so even being able to recall after what was said and how it was said, and maybe some of the nonverbal messaging, like the nonverbal communication we picked up on, being able to process that through with someone can be so huge. And you're not going to do it with the person you went to. So to have that person beside you, you can do that with, and even remind you of, like you did so well, and just be encouraging and help you with some memory recall and things like that, and as well as being a witness to whatever happened in case it does not go as well as we had hoped it would go. I think that's really key too.
It's a good point. And with the witness thing, just because we know this, even hermeneutically, the witness thing in the scriptures is not a physical person. Like a witness is a piece of evidence. So like we can sit and go, okay, you have a lot of the markers, the markers of behavior of somebody who has been through this. And I want to tell you, I see that. Like, that's the first witness, right? It's complete. It's not that you have to have physical ones. And so with what you've just said too, the friend who was present for the aftermath of the event, that saw the person be shaken up and was like, what's going on? And they couldn't tell me. Like, I was there to see that. I remember. There's another piece of evidence, right? The witness. So you can have those people with you.